What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today we are going to be taking a look at a trophy hunter game, and I think it's time for us to be the protagonist. I was definitely inspired the other day when I played up against Pavlov, and they were able to put together some really insane stuff with Trophy Hunter, and ever since then, I've definitely wanted to do it myself. I do know that it is really important to pick up some tier 2 treasures, so we're going to be starting off by locking this Cinderella after I cast an Eeny Meeny on the first shop. There's really a number of really good treasures on tier 2, Bounty Board, Hermes Boots, and Monster Manual. All three of those kind of make up the trifecta of Trophy Hunter treasures, and I would have loved to lock the pair of crafties there, but unfortunately we rolled a free roll. If only we could have gotten an Eeny Meeny and gotten one of those crafties for free, we would have been off to the races here. Unfortunately going to have a slightly slower start, but we're still halfway through completing Cinderella, which can certainly give us a one of those really good treasures. So we'll see what else we can pick up next turn, but for right now, just going to be running the Cindy and the Minotaur. And will that be enough against Wonder Waddle? Not even close. These eggs are cracked, and Wonder Waddle is going to hit us for 4. We do have an interesting option here. We can, like, Forbidden Fruit, throw in a roll in some capacity, try to get a Labyrinth Minotaur pair. The other thing that we could have done was we could have picked up one of those dwarves, like we could have picked up Crafty or something, and that way we could potentially find like a Crafty in the next shop after we roll. But ultimately, I think that this serves us pretty well to be able to pick up an egg of our own and start cracking some of our opponents now. But yeah, almost have 2 treasures. I think this is a pretty good start on Trophy Hunter, despite being at 31 health and being on the bottom of this lobby. I think that that this is a decent start, and we'll be able to start to turn some things around. So during level 3, I'm definitely going to be in pursuit of other tier 2 treasures, and then once we hit level 4, then we start to pick up a bunch of sweet level 4 units that really go well with Trophy Hunter. But I also really like Labyrinth Minotaur on Trophy Hunter because a lot of the creatures that you're going to be trying to slay with in the early game are evil creatures. And I say slay because they're actually last breaths, and that's going to be Mummy and Black Cat, are really the main last breaths that you have access to at the start of the game. But Stag is strong enough. I'll pick that up here as we face off against the Mad Catter. Let's see how that goes. We don't quite take out the Baby Dragon, so that's unfortunate, but I think we've got enough stats here to take my opponent out. Yeah, it looks like we will, but they will crack our egg, so that is slightly unfortunate. We lose our egg, but we don't lose any more health, so I can't be too upset. I do generally kind of like Mad Mim is Trophy Hunter. There's also Kidnap to flip over the Cinderella, and I could do something like Mad Mim, Kidnap, Polywoggle, putting the Polywoggle in one. That seems good. Let's see what treasure we get. Honestly, none of these are that great. It's probably Fairy Tale, though it could also be Secret Stash just to gain a little bit more health. But Fairy Tale does work when you're trying to slay. It just throws additional stats onto Grim Soul and additional stats onto mummies, like anything, well, really anything that you're going to buy, right? Friendly Spirit, Good Boy, what have you. But even like Monster Book, something that doesn't benefit from having more stats, still benefits from having more stats, of course, because more stats is good, but also because it's going to potentially allow you to slay. So we'll see if that is a difference maker in terms of allowing Polywoggle to slay 5 attack instead of 4. From the Mad Mim support. So it's going to attack into... No, okay, it didn't matter. But still good to have. Our Stag gets attacked, which honestly probably just means we lose this combat, unfortunately. But We shall see how it goes. The Madmim also has an extra attack. Doesn't seem like that is going to be super useful here. We do get to kidnap something. What was that? What did we kidnap? A Sherwood Sure Shot. Okay. So we kidnapped a Sherwood Sure Shot and we pollywoggled into a Heartwood Elder. It's not exactly the tier 4 unit that I love to see as Trophy Hunter, though you can do some stuff with it sometimes. I do think Queen of Hearts is pretty good here, but I decide to roll and try to double up on some tier 2 units, and Hermes Boots is one of those really good Trophy Hunter treasures that I talked about. Shout out to, I believe your name was Sarah, that recommended Ring of Meteors on Trophy Hunter as well. I definitely want to try that. I have something that kind of resembles it that I'll showcase in the future. But Ring of Meteors can also be kind of a sweet one on Trophy Hunter because you just immediately kill your Grim Souls at the start of the combat. Unfortunately, it's kind of a nombo with Fairy Tale, and here I'm going to sell 3 quickly at the end to pick up Wretched Mummy, and I think that that is probably a pretty good use of our time here as well. So now we are looking for Polywoggle Slays yet again. We're going to miss on the Polywoggle and get our Stag attacked again, but if our Mummy can slay, it's going to clean up a lot. It's not quite going to be able to win, but if we can hit the... I guess we hit the frontline thing and killed that. Okay, so we save ourselves a few points of life here. Another Polywoggle. I take it. I think it is a little bit risky in all likelihood. We are pretty low on health. Could take a Cat's Call with the Labyrinth Minotaur and the Madmim. That winds up having a decent amount of stats, but... is also a little bit silly. Then we have Friendly Spirit here. That's definitely an option. I do want to say as well that we are going to see like better Trophy Hunter games from me in the future. I think that to an extent, I am still kind of figuring stuff out in this game. So in terms of like the Polywoggle pickup, I think that that's probably a little bit questionable, but we'll see what we are able to make do with that. You definitely want to pick up any Grim Souls that you can find on Trophy Hunter. I think I'm just deciding that I'm going to put this Heartwood Elder in because it is quite good, and then I think I do decide that I want to try to slay with Grim Soul. There is even, like I could, oh yeah, that's true, I could put the Stag back in here. That's somewhat reasonable. And then I go for the Potion of Heroism just to try to get the Grim Soul to slay additionally. So if the Grim Soul can slay, there's a chance that, like, for instance, it could flip over both Polywoggles. And that could be kind of cool. Should probably also switch the positioning of my 2 Polywoggles so that I have one with 6 attack, but that is going to trigger onto the Mummy, and then the other Polywoggle is actually going to get in there for 3. So we flip over one of the Polywoggles, and then we are able to do some nice things with the Mummy missiles. That's actually going to be enough that we win this combat. So we're kind of getting back into it. This is what I was talking about a little bit, the power spike that happens on 4.0 is Trophy Hunter, and we do get to pick up some nice units here. The Wombats in Disguise are an interesting one because they could, I mean, like, it's a good unit, right? But it could also backfire in that it could, like, now we could trigger on that, but I think generating a unit off of the Wombats in Disguise is probably fine for now. We just won't want to keep it in perpetuity. Shard is good here. Could get a monster book. We wind up getting a vulture. We do have some animals, but definitely not enough that we want to be playing those. Let's skip ahead into the combat. I don't think anything's going to change. I am going to keep running this Polywoggle, though that's questionable too, because I really want to preserve my life total as much as possible, and I'm definitely playing it a little bit risky. But we do have Hermes Boots, so we will be attacking first with an 11 attack of Grimsoul, and that could be enough to do a lot, but unfortunately we're going to miss the 50-50 while we attack into the doubly. But we do get the slay with this Mummy, so that's going to take out 2 of my opponent's things. We needed to take out a few more fannies, though, unfortunately, so that is going to mean that we do lose this combat, and we are going to take 12 from Merlin, down to 7. We're still alive, but not by much. Wormroot on Grimsoul gets some permanent stats. That seems much better than the potions that we've been casting every single turn, but I will definitely take it. Sporko is an improvement over Madmim, and it's probably worth the gold investment rather than just trying to triple the Madmims, though it's 4 gold versus 4 gold. I could definitely see trying to triple the Madmims there too, again, because those tier 4 treasures are so good, or tier 2 treasures are so good. But the main reason to decide against that is if you want the Sporko stats right this very second, and that is the case. So let's jump ahead into this combat as well. Again, still playing the Polywoggle against the Ghost. It's probably fair enough to do so, but this is probably the last turn that I want to run it. And I'm actually totally fine polywoggling into a 5-drop because there are actually a lot of good 5-drops that you can pick up while you are polywoggling here. Strangely enough, I summon a unit from the Wombats in Disguise, which is a polywoggle, and then the second Grimsoul trigger triggers on that polywoggle and gives us a temporary Cupid. So a really, really weird interaction there where we kind of lose our Grimsoul trigger, but it's going to be fine nonetheless. I think I might pick up Pumpkin here for the temporary stats. And, oh no, okay, I don't. Maybe I'm getting it confused with another game. I know that there was a Grimsoul game in which I briefly play a 5-cost Pumpkin, so apologies for that. I'm going to try to not show too many more Pumpkin games from here until I start showing some games where I pick up Pumpkin as a 6-cost unit, but I'm also apologizing for something that didn't happen. No, okay, I'm strongly considering it here. It's a weird unit, so let me just talk about it, and aside from the fact that it is not on this patch anymore. I actually wind up rolling for Baba Yaga, and that seems a lot better. But it's really weird to play these units. Like, you saw how much we weren't really held back by the Wombats on the last combat. It was just really, really weird. And now that we have a Baba Yaga, there are some definite things that we really want the Grimsoul to trigger onto. So I am much more inclined to just make sure that we are getting the trigger on the Monster Book, on the Mummy, because those are going to be the things that allow us to do some powerful stuff. So Grimsoul is going to survive and take out Lancelot, which fires off a bunch of Mummy missiles because the Grimsoul is supported by Baba Yaga. So that is really good. Then my other Grimsoul gets to slay, and that is also supported by Baba Yaga. So that is a ton more Mummy missiles onto Wharf Book. And we will see if we can pick up any more books ourselves, but we're really just looking for basically the units that we already have. Books, Grimsouls, Mummies, Baba Yagas. I'll take a Sporko. It would certainly be reasonable on the current board. I probably want to give up on Polywoggle at this point. I just want to play the most powerful things. I do go for a Madmim, and again, it's mostly to look for these tier 2 treasures. Monster Manual is really, really good. It's a little bit slow now that we're getting it on level 5, but it's going to allow our Mummies and our Grimsoul to scale into the late game as our opponents also grow and just give us a little bit more stats. I think I was mistaken. This is definitely not the game where I play a Pumpkin, which is a good thing because then we don't have to worry about it, and it's also awkward on the board because it could potentially trigger off of a Grimsoul and do absolutely nothing, which is really, really awkward. It can be a last breath that just triggers and does nothing because no other evil units have died yet. Debating if I want to play Mummies or Monster Books, and in what capacity. Do I want to support the... so I think what I go for is I just want to put the most possible attack on the Grimsouls, and that's why I move the Madmim into spot 5, and then regardless of what they trigger onto the Mummy or the Monster Book, they'll be Baba Yaga'd. So I think this is like a decent hedge that is still quite powerful. We're going to pop a pumpkin and survive, so that is going to fire off some mummy missiles here to start the combat. Then my opponent takes out my other Baba Yaga. I'm really hoping, nice, they attack into Grimsoul, which now means we get to cast a bunch of monster books. But this is a little bit scary. My opponent has an absolutely huge Vampire. We do get to slay with Monster Book there, so we're going to cast a little bit of spells, but it's not going to be enough. And then when Monster Book dies, we get a Poison Apple on the Vampire. This was an absolutely huge upset for us. I think if we look at the tracker, yeah, I'm 90% to lose that combat, and when I lose, I die, because I lose to that huge Vampire. So we had to scam the Vampire, and we're not level 6 yet, so our ability to even scam is certainly hampered by the fact that we're not going to be able to see Pigomorph. We really just had to find Rotten Applewood. Some interesting choices here. Moonsong Horn just gives our units in play +1/+1, so I'm kind of into it, just like any possible stats that we can get at this point in the game. I do think that it could be helpful. We'll take Moonsong Horn, we will replace the Fairy Tale, and hopefully that could allow us to potentially cast like Burning Palm on one of our Grim Souls or something like that. But an upgraded Monster Book is definitely going to be a huge power spike, so I do appreciate that as well. Yeah, just gotta hope that we roll some nice spells onto the Monster Book. It was definitely clutch for us in that last one, and our Grim Souls are just continuing to grow. Now both of our Grim Souls are equally big because one of them got Medusa'd, but 18 attack. Hopefully that is enough to slay against APOC. It's not going to be if we didn't get the 1 in 4 there, but we are going to take out my opponent's piggies, and then what else is going to happen? Their Doom Breath is going to get in and kill the Monster Book. Then we get the slay, so we do get to fire off some mummy missiles and some Monster Book in action, but we are a little bit low here, but now Mummy gets to slay, right? Yeah, Mummy's turn is up to attack, and I think that's enough to win the combat. 20 damage to 2 different things, so we just barely get it in against this APOC, who just gained some health that turn to stay alive there. Now we're level 6, but honestly, I'm still looking for the same units. I'll take a Drink Me Potion because there are some really decent spells. I think I like the Hugify. Just throw 10 attack on my first attacking Grimsoul. That's going to give it much higher odds to slay. You would see in the last combat against the APOC. All right, we're still alive. The last combat against the APOC, we would have slayed against any of the things that we saw them playing. Deck of Many Things, also probably a pretty good scam here once we are on tier 6. I think it probably is worth playing. Could sell 4 things to buy Oni King. It's not the craziest idea in the world, but I think that there are some better things that we can make happen just playing a bunch of just putting the Minotaur back in, I think is probably going to be good enough, and then we'll roll. And I probably want to lock for Baba Yaga. Can't sell for it at this point. I'd have to sell 4 things. It would be Minotaur, Sporko, Mummy, and Wombats. That would just be way too much, but we can pick it up next turn, and that is quite good. Could even pick up the Monster Book. I don't think we have to, though. I think we'll just wind up running the Mummy next turn. And let's see, is 38 attack on Grimsoul enough? It's going to be close. It was a 50-50, but we did get the slay, so now we've got a bunch of triggers getting in there. So each Grimsoul, the slay and the last breath are both going to fire 2 slays, and then each of those slays is going to fire 2 slays because our slay units are supported by Baba Yaga. So a Mummy slaying there will be able to finish off the combat for us after Tweedle trades in with Minotaur. Gotta say, we're looking pretty good all of a sudden. Our opponents are scaling, and eventually our numbers won't be high enough, but for right now they are. I'll take a Wretched Mummy, and from there we are able to pick up a Bad Moon. And Bad Moon's kind of tricky, but interestingly, with Baba Yaga supporting my units, Bad Moon is going to generate more stats than Monster Manual. I think I want to keep Deck of Many Things because it could just scam my opponent and work out very well for us. And I definitely want to keep the Hermes Boots, but I think that we can toss the Monster Manual in favor of Bad Moon at this point. Slightly considering Nyan Sea Terror because there are some good tier 5 treasures, but we can also get tier 5 treasures from tripling Baba Yaga, so I'm going to keep on rolling. Earthquake is fine. It could give us, it's basically like giving Grimsoul and all of my other units +2 attack, because it could mean that Grimsoul is then able to slay because of that. I think I'm also going to switch back to just making sure Grimsoul has the most attack possible. I'm just considering my options there, but I think supporting it with Mad Mim, just giving it +6 attack is the way to go. Try to get that slay and try to scale that away. So Grimsoul's going to get in and it is going to slay, killing a Juliet, and then Mummy's going to fire off, killing off a bunch of other stuff and growing as well, a ton. Mummy takes out my opponent, and we even get some additional stats there on both the Mummy and the Grimsoul because of the Bad Moon. So now we're up against the Ghost, and the game is almost over. Potion of Heroism is certainly worth considering. Merlin's Test, also pretty good. Probably would just throw it on the Grimsoul at this point to try to ensure that the Grimsoul slays. I didn't really felt like I needed the Potion of Heroism because we're up against the Ghost. And same thing, the Merlin's Test is actually kind of like the opposite. Like, we'd probably win and we'd get to keep the buff, but I really want to try to find one of these Baba Yagas. When I see another Merlin's Test, that's also worth considering, but I'm also thinking about this Storm King here. Basically, when you are in this late game portion as Trophy Hunter, you end up casting a ton of spells, and all of those spells are just going to continue to grow Storm King, so there are definitely some avenues where just playing a Storm King makes a whole lot of sense, but we are just going to continue to roll and spend all of our gold rolling. I'll throw in a Masquerade Ball at the end, and I do find the Baba Yaga at the very end of the combat. I'm just looking at what else we could do. We could take the Gumblegore and replace the Grimsoul. The Doom Breath probably doesn't really... the Gumblegore could replace the Mad Mim. We probably aren't going to be playing the Doom Breath. That seems kind of hard to fit in on this comp. But the Gumblegore seems like it could be sweet. So we're going to start this by winning the 50-50 and getting the Slays and casting a whole bunch of spells. And that might even just be good enough. Like, this is an incredible amount of spells. This monster book is supported by 2 Baba Yagas, and the Grimsoul attacked and slayed and died. So that's 4 slays. They all wound up going on to the monster book, and then every time the monster book slays, it's casting 2 spells, so that's 8, and then times 3, because it's supported by 2 Baba Yagas. So that is 24 spells, if I am not mistaken, and going to mean that we turn a bunch of my opponent's units into mush here and also grow this monster book pretty incredibly. It also means that the Mummy is going to be able to slay once I connect with the Mummy because we have scammed my opponent's entire front line, and that's going to be enough to get a win. So now we get to pick up a Baba Yaga, grab a tier 5 treasure if we'd like it. Evil Eye, pretty tempting. I think we have to take Evil Eye, and I think at this point we probably just have to cut the Bad Moon. There's only going to be 1 or 2 more fights left in this game, and I'm still into the Deck of Many Things. I'm still into the Hermes Boots, and now it is a matter of what else we want to play. And the Gumblegore is kind of cool, plus 20 attack to the Grimsoul is going to be sweet, and then I think I'm just looking to potentially sell one of my units and pick up this Burning Palm and throw that on the Grimsoul as well. So now Grimsoul will attack. It seems like it's pretty likely to slay with 60 attack, and then it's going to trigger a whole bunch of mummy missiles or a whole bunch of spells. Like I said, I think it was 24 spells. I just did the math pretty quickly. Or it will be a whole bunch of mummy missiles. Unfortunately, we don't get the Slay, but we do get a bunch of spells. First thing we're going to do is take out my opponent's Echo Wood. Then we are going to cast some more spells for a second. I'd really like to take out my opponent's Bear Stains. But we'll see what we can do. We wind up taking out the baby bears, which is basically the last thing that I care about taking out. But hopefully we can take out these bear stains, and we do get a poison apple on one of them before dealing with the 3 bad pigs, and then we get a poison apple on the other one. So now we just need a falling stars, and we get that as well. That's going to wipe out my opponent's bear stains, but we actually dealt with all of their summons too. My opponent did not have much else going on. They did have that baby bear with the magic sword, but that is going to be it. We get another Slay with the monster book, so here comes a bunch more spells. I'm sure with how many spells we're casting, we should be able to deal with this hippocampus, and there we go. We turn it into a pigocampus. Then we shrivel some of their other pigs, and that is going to be all she wrote. So we hit my opponent for 13 down to 18. We've still got some room to go, and I think Drink Me Potion is a good place to go from here. We could get a few more stats out of a Hugify, but if we take a look at my opponent's board, I'm 75% chance to Slay on my first attack as long as I don't hit the Hippocampus. Hugify doesn't change that, so I don't really think that I need Hugify. I'm going to go for Mix-a-Whizzle on my Sporko, just to see if we get anything kind of interesting. We really don't. I do think Shrivel is the way to go here. Shrivel will be able to take out my opponent's Echo Wood or the Baby Bear. I think my opponent's Bear Stains are pumped, so those are too big for the Shrivel to care about, but we'll see what we can do. I think there I was potentially considering the Pumpkin before I realized that that could have been disastrous, but we don't wind up doing anything else with the turn, but I think that that is still good enough. My opponent, so we do get the Shrivel on the Echo Wood. My opponent shrivels or pigos, sorry, so much happens here in the start of combat. I gotta rewind it back. So first we're going to shrivel my opponent's Echo Wood, which is absolutely fantastic. We can see it wouldn't have killed anything else. They pigomorph our Gumblegore, and then we pigomorph with the Deck of Many Things on their other Bear Stain. Then we get the 75% chance, and we hit with the Grimsoul using the Hermes Boots, and then we're going to cast a little bit of spells. We Poison Apple some things that we need to Poison Apple. We pigomorph some things that we need to pigomorph. And that is basically all she wrote. So if we can kill my opponent with just this spell, I think this will be the last combat of the game. So some shrivels, some fireballs. This is looking good. My opponent does have a magic sword that we will have to get through still. Maybe they'll get one attack. Oh, they still have pigos coming. Okay, but now we've got mummy missiles. So now the mummy missiles are coming out, and that's going to clear the rest of my opponent's field. And we hit Humph, actually, for 22 damage and take the win. I didn't realize that was, I think, Paul Cheon there in the finals. But the Deck of Many Things definitely doing work. And then all of these monsters, we grew them pretty well by the end of it. And part of that was due to grabbing those early tier 2 treasures. And then we did play around with the Bad Moon for a little bit, but ultimately picked up a very powerful comp. You know what? I think in my math, I wasn't considering the fact that we also had Evil Eye. So it's just a whole bunch more slays. You probably figured it out already. At some point, you know, how much is too much. But we were definitely doing good there, and I think we were pretty likely to win that combat. You can see 66% to win that combat, so 2 out of 3 chances there. We got a little bit lucky for sure to be able to kill my opponent even, but we had a really strong composition there nonetheless. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.